Well, hello, everybody. This is Logan Lewis back at you with another edition of Your Morning Drive. Today, if you're watching on video, and I highly recommend that you tune into this specific episode in particular because we are in front of a monstrous sized piece of art, and I'll get to what that is in a second. But more importantly, we're here at the Booth Western Art Museum in Cartersville. The Booth Western Art Museum in Cartersville is in association with the Smithsonian Institution and is a 120,000 square foot museum located in Cartersville, where guests are invited to see America's story through contemporary Western artwork. A presidential gallery as well, and an interactive children's gallery opened since August of 2003. The Booth Museum is the only museum of its kind in the Southeast and was named in 2020, 2021, and 2022 USA Today's 10 Best People's Choice Award for Best Art Museum in the country. It is the mission of the Booth Museum to educate, entertain, and inspire guests through the exploration of the Western art, popular culture, and American heritage in a welcoming environment. This podcast is brought to us proudly by our friends at Cartersville Living, powered by Best Version Media. Their magazine is your go-to source for uplifting local content, expert insights, community events, and more. They're bringing people together every month with compelling stories and informative articles from around town. Each new edition of Cartersville Living brings us closer to our vision of uniting the community, one person, one home, one business at a time. Before we dive in a little bit about me, I'd love if you followed along on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever your heart desires. I'm missing one, but it'll come to me. LinkedIn, that's the other one. Also, wherever you're listening, whether it's YouTube, again, check out the YouTube because it's got quite the backdrop right now. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts, Your Morning Drive is there. So make sure you're hitting subscribe so that when new episodes come out, they're delivered straight to your phone and you won't miss a beat. That's how we like to do it. And that way you'll never miss an episode. And why would you want to? Because we have amazing people week after week, and it's super inspiring for me, but also super inspiring for you guys to be able to hear the stories of all these really, really cool people. And today's guest is no exception. My guest today, love that transition. Did not plan for that, but it happened that way. My guest today is the Director of Development at the Booth Western Art Museum in Cartersville, Georgia. She is a natural connector who helps bring people together through art, culture, and a shared experience. Since joining the booth over 3 years ago, she's played a key role in growing its community of members, artists, and collectors from across the country. From annual galas and art auctions to member trips that blend her adventure and friendship, her work reflects her passion for people and storytelling, and in her belief that art's greatest power lies in human connection. Please welcome my new friend, Leslie McMillan.
Thanks, Logan. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing this. I know, this is exciting.
I'm excited to be here.
Who would have thought that a couple months after my grand tour that you gave me, that someone else in the community would put us together and be like, hey, have you met Leslie? Because we're going to do Cartersville Living with Leslie and the girls for their the trip they took. And I was like, I met with Leslie, like, at the time, I was like, I met with Leslie like last week.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what a small world. She's like, yeah, we're doing the Booth Museum, and more specifically this trip that y'all took. But before we get to that, I want to kind of get to know you a little bit. You know, you gave me this, guys, she gave me this amazing tour. I mean, I came by just to learn more about the museum. I live 10 minutes down the street, and this is the one museum I had not been to at the time. And I was like, I want to learn more about this place, maybe get involved if I can, anywhere that makes sense. And here we are a couple months later, just by the act of God. But gave me this amazing tour, showed me everything, pointed out the art. She really knows her stuff, and you'll really get to hear that here in a second when we chat. But and guys, I mentioned it in the intro, but the presidential exhibit, God, if you're a history nerd like I am, you will fall in love with that. It's got mementos and letters from every president that's served as president in our country's history, which is really, really neat, especially with the older presidents where you're like, surely there's nothing still around from Thomas Jefferson was never president, was he?
Originally hand signed by each president.
That's amazing.
Letter.
So either way, It was amazing, and from that moment, I was like, "I am in on the Booth Museum." So, but here we are, Leslie. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for welcome back to the booth. And we are sitting in front of the Maynard Dixon, which is one of our signature pieces here that a lot of photographs are made in front of the Maynard Dixon here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think the video captures it as well as it could be just because of, camera angles and such, but this painting is massive. You only really see half of it in this frame. It goes up another from where it cuts off at the top of the screen. It goes up probably another 3 or 4 feet. I mean, it's huge, but also my depth perception is bad, so that could be like 1 foot, and I wouldn't even know. But either way, it's a substantially large painting, and even from where I'm sitting, it goes over another few feet and past Leslie a few more feet. So this is a monstrous painting, and I actually took a photograph of the little informational card next to it, so I can tell you all about it. It is like she said, the Red Butte with mountain men, painted in 1935. It is an oil on a canvas painting, tons of different kinds of paintings for my non-artist people out there. There's tons of different types of painting and art and stuff, and this is a grand example of that. Yeah, Leslie, do you want to tell me a little bit more about it? I know you know
Yeah.
your stuff.
So Maynard Dixon painted in 1935, and it was originally painted and installed in a steak restaurant in San Francisco. They were behind the bar, I believe. There was this painting and one other. And so, yeah, we're just happy to have it here at the booth for everybody to see here in Cartersville, Georgia.
Yeah, and I kind of want to dive in because funny enough, when we met the first time, I kind of had a lot more questions, but I kind of saved them in case this ever happened. So I've got questions just really on not just the Booth Museum, but just kind of like acquiring art in general. I've always been curious about like how do pieces get either like I know some people like trade pieces one for the other like and some museums they barter with each other or they rent for a period of time. Like how does acquiring this from a steakhouse in San Francisco to Cartersville, Georgia, what does that look like?
I don't even know the story. That's a great question.
Just in general
Just in
though.
general for art, for our art, we have a permanent collection, of course, that the Booth Museum owns outright, and we have it on some of those works on exhibit here at the booth today, and then we have some that are securely in the vault, and we have members of the Smithsonian Museum. Since we're a Smithsonian affiliated museum, we are able to borrow from the Smithsonian pieces that are displayed here and on exhibit. And we also have some private collectors and or collections around the country that allow us to basically it allows us to showcase art that we may not particularly be able to put our hands on at the moment, and we are able to borrow, and it's on loan here and up on our walls for everybody to enjoy for a temporary time. And so that's another great thing about the booth is we have this permanent collection. We have these permanent gallery spaces, but we also have 4 temporary exhibition galleries here at the museum where we transition those every 3 to 4 months. I mean, we have a photography temporary gallery where every around 6 months that transitions out and we bring in new art. So it's not like where you come to the museum, you may have come with your child on a field trip or you come as a child on a field trip, and it's not like a one and done thing. You always can see something different and new and exciting here at the booth. So we want everybody to know that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I love that that's what you guys do along with the other museums here in Cartersville. I live 2 seconds away from the name is escaping me, the automobile one.
Savoy.
Savoy, thank you. The Savoy Museum, and I know that they change out their galleries and everything every few months or so, so it's very enticing to be a member of any of these institutions because then you can just come back and check it out when it's fresh new stuff or when you're having events, and it's really, really cool, especially if you're, again, like a nerd and you just like me, and you just appreciate old stuff.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's interesting. We have several local families that come in or couples that come in for our member openings for date night. But we have a lot of people don't know this. We have each museum, we operate under Georgia Museums Inc. That's our umbrella. C3 nonprofit. But under that is TELUS Science Museum, Savoy Automobile Museum, the Booth Western Art Museum, and the Bartow History Museum. And so we actually have a museum package. It's called the Georgia Museums Inc. package membership, where you can pay to be a member of all four collectively. And so with that, touching on something that you just reminded me of, it's so great to have education is of course part of our mission, and but we want to educate, cradle to the grave, basically, is lifelong learners. I mean, we have people that love history, that love art, that love just being part of somewhere where they can come and feel like they're part of the culture here in the fabric of Cartersville. We're in downtown Cartersville, and so that's interesting. And it's, uh it's really unique in the sense of we have people come and support us, and we have what we call member openings on every temporary exhibit that opens, and we have, a reception and a gallery walk where we'll have an artist or a subject matter expert for that particular subject matter, whatever that exhibition is. Like on movie posters, which is on exhibit right now, we brought in three experts in the movie poster industry or the movie industry or history, even. And they were all three on a panel and they were able to share. So, with a member opening, you go through a gallery walk from say 4 to 5, you're at a reception from 5 to 6, and from 6 to 7, you would normally formatted, you would go into the theater and be part of the panel discussion, and hear from subject matter experts and or the artist. We have a member opening coming up, and we have 6 artists coming into town, concept to canvas, and that opening is on November 8th, and we're excited about that. And so all 6 artists are coming from around the country to share about their processes, concept, and from where they made the photograph of the subject matter that they're covering all the way up until the finished painting.
Wow, that's really cool. And I'm glad you brought that up because this comes out by the time that this releases. This comes out a week before that. So that's a perfect segue into hey, if you like what we're talking about today and you want to learn more or you want to do more, you can come to that, right?
Yeah, we have something for everybody. So
Your morning drive is also present to us by Good Days Canned Cocktails. Good Days are a classic cocktail brand created in a convenient, ready to drink canned format for any occasion, whether it's a pool day, a boat day, a beach day, a graduation, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, anything in between. Good Days are there for you. Good Days are ahead when they are in your cooler, your fridge, your anything in between. Good Days has your back. If you want to be one of the first to try their drink, you can do so by visiting drinkgooddays.com/pages/find-us to find a store near you selling their drink. Of course, you must be 21 years of age to consume and purchase.
we have around 60,000 visitors a year here, and around 22,000 are school age children on field trips. And so our education team's top notch. They come in, there's actually a table right across from us right now, ready for a field trip tomorrow. So hands on, interactive for those children to come in, those students to come in. We have different programs covering different criteria, standards of education for the state of Georgia. And so our education team, Patty Dees, she's our director of education here. She is top notch. She came from the Center of Puppetry Arts, like say 10 years ago. And she's been our education director for the last, say, 10 years. And she is a team of people, and you don't want to mess with our education team. They're going to get the job done. They come in and they're all business when those students are here. And I mean, you can't help but not to learn with that team and everything that they do to make sure that they're working alongside the teachers to portray whatever they're trying to teach from a history standpoint here and using the art. So it's very, application is key. And so when they look at the artwork, they can kind of see themselves into the story of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I have fond memories as a kid going to museums and thinking like, "Oh, this is so cool," but I wish I could, like, go back because I feel like I would appreciate it way more now, but I love that so many people, I mean, a third of your visitors a year are students. That's incredible. That's great opportunity for kids to learn about things outside the classroom and like see these things. And yeah, like it's not like this dude was there, but I mean he painted a depiction of it, and it wildly realistic. So I mean it's truly wild that they get to see things like this. And I mean, I remember when you gave me the tour, I'm looking at the painting across the room, the Native American, you guys can't see it, but I can. The Native American portrait there, I mean, when you get up close to it, it looks like it was a photograph.
Yeah.
It's painted with such detail, and a lot of these are. They're painted with such detail that you're like, "That's gotta be a photograph," when you're walking toward like this one also on the corner there. Just you think that it'd be a photograph, so these people have so much talent, it's just unreal.
Yeah. So when I first started, so I've worked with the museum for 3.5 years. I had no art background whatsoever. When I first started, I'm the director of development, so I love people and chatting with people and matching opportunities that we have for them with things that they might want to assign their name to in the future. So naming rights, this gallery that we're sitting in now, Jack and Ellen Holland named it, and we are so fortunate to have a lot of our galleries and areas in the museum named. And so when you look around at the art, I've been very educated since I've been here on the art as far as the different mediums. I remember one of my first tours walking around with Lisa Wheeler, our curator, and she was talking about the different mediums, and I'm like, "What's a medium?" Like, okay,
Like,
you
is
know,
somebody about to, like, check my pulse or
yeah,
whatever?
I'm like, okay. So anyway, she was telling me, you can look at a painting and see it behind if it's glass, behind a glass frame, it's watercolor, to protect that. And so I was like, okay, now I can pick out watercolors around here,
Right?
without reading a label. So it was just little minor things like that, that in the beginning I was, really needing some education on. But what's so fantastic to me is you walk around and you see the color and the light and the depiction of historical things that have gone on in our country and around. And so these paintings were painted in like, the 1900s, the late 1800s. And I'm like, oh, wow, the artist, they didn't have cell phones back then, or they couldn't Google like what was historically accurate for that. It was really research that they had to do. So anyways, it's all fascinating to me now. And I really get into meeting the artists that are living artists here, that we get to bring in and that I get to go visit in their studios across the country. And so it really just seals the relationship more when you get to meet the artist and hear about their story and why they do what they do.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing I've been thinking about this whole time, and even still since the first time we met, is that I know that because you guys are a part of a 501(c)(3), it's not like your objective every day is to make money. Your objective is to educate and inspire and inform, but at the end of the day, you guys do have to keep the lights on. You do have to pay your people's salary. You do have to pay for certain things. If you go to Joe Blow, and I don't want to disrespect the guy who actually painted this, but he's long gone, I would think. Um, if I'm the artist and I'm giving the Booth Museum this painting to display, is the booth paying for that, or is it strictly just out of the goodness of the artist's heart?
No, the booth is acquiring art in several different ways.
Okay.
So we have collectors that have been part of our membership or collections around the southeast that maybe they've heard of the booth. And so they want to, make sure that the art is meant to be shared. And so we've had several exhibits that has been part of the description of the exhibit. But a lot of times when donors have these nice paintings and nice things, objects, artifacts that we also have here in cases upstairs, they want a place where everybody can feel, that they're it. That the art is meant to be shared. And so an artist doesn't paint a painting or, like make a bowl or, we have objects and artifacts upstairs in order for them to just have it and nobody else to see it, right? And so artists, their work is purchased from them by our collectors or by somebody that maybe we've not even ever heard of before, maybe has never been affiliated with the booth, but then they see that we have a Booth Western Art Museum and the Smithsonian affiliated, which gives us some credibility there. And they're like, okay, this is a great place for us to have this. So recently received a donation. A father had passed away, and the daughters had received a collection of pictures, photographs for our photography permanent collection. And it was something that we would like to have here at the booth to put on display and exhibit. And so they just called the booth museum one day and was like, my father and his sister came up here a lot to visit, and we would love, this was hanging on his wall, we would love for that collection to be part of the booth's fabric now. And so we have that now in our possession.
That's really cool because then it shows, because then those family members can bring their young kids or their family members over and say, like, yo, grandpa or dad or whatever the relationship is was an often a frequent visitor of ours. He loved this place. He came often. He was an artist himself, and now after his passing, his legacy is going to live on for future generations to learn about. That's really cool. It's really neat.
It's really neat. It's really cool for the artists, the living artists that, maybe have not been exposed to our permanent collection as of yet. But what Seth Hopkins, our executive director, and, our founders and the members here at the booth, they've built over the last 25 years somewhere to be proud of and somewhere to come and see the artwork displayed. And so artists from all over the country would love to be part, if they're in the Western genre, part of our permanent collection. And so we've acquired a couple of pieces in the last few months. I know one is a John Fleming. He's an artist out of Texas that I've met a couple of years ago, and that's now here. We just acquired a William Haskell um, piece of art. I'm not sure what the subject matter was or what it was called, but it's coming here. So those artists are very proud to be. They put it on their social media that they're loud and proud. We're going to be in the permanent collection at the Booth Museum. So we're proud of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you ever have any surviving family members of some of these older artists ever come by and be like, yeah, my great great grandfather painted this painting?
I think Seth, our executive director, he's had more encounters like that before than I have, but I have actually toured around with some people that were like, oh, this was my great great grandfather. And then it's fun. It's different tours that you go on. We had a guy that rodeos right now, and it was interesting to hear his take on the art of like walking around and seeing some of the art that kind of depicts the rodeo world and life. And he was like, okay, he was telling us what was historically accurate or what might be different in that photograph, or if that was like definitely something that happens while the bull, like I think he was a bull rider or a bronc rider. He was talking to us about that. So it was unique touring the museum with him. And I forget his name though. I'm sorry. I should have gave him a shout out, but he was in town for an event and he came by. And then looking around this room, we have just, many stories. We have Ed Dwight. Ed Dwight came to me. He is a gentleman, African American gentleman, who was a sculptor, is a sculptor, and he's in his 90s now. And so he was on the list to be the first African American astronaut. JFK, when he was president, said Ed Dwight will be the next person that will be appointed to this to be an astronaut. And so, of course, JFK, he was assassinated and Lyndon B. Johnson took over, and that was not fulfilled. And so Ed Dwight, he is the sculptor of this right here. And I believe that sculpture is called The Dirt Farmers. And I think it's a depiction of his grandparents in Dalton, Georgia.
Wow.
And so he actually was able to go up on a SpaceX flight like last year.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And he late 80s, early 90s, I believe. And
That's
so
really cool.
Ed finally made it to space.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I remember. Well, I don't remember because I wasn't there, but Lyndon B. Johnson wasn't as passionate about the civil rights stuff as John F. Kennedy was. And so that is why some of those programs and stuff that JFK had started, because he was so passionate about the civil rights movement, Lyndon B. Johnson was like, nah, we're not going to spend money on that crap. Which
It's interesting when you look at the art and you hear the stories. Seth, of course, shared that story with me, and when we go on tours, we share those stories with our people. But just knowing this artwork by Maynard Dixon was in a San Francisco steakhouse, and then knowing that over here, the sculpture to my right, it was, made by or sculpted by Ed Dwight, and that historical knowledge about his passion about being an astronaut and that not happening. And then all of a sudden, Seth Hopkins actually went up and he was actually in Texas to go lecture at a university, and he was able to go over and see Ed go up in the spaceship. So that was cool.
That is really cool. If there was one thing, Leslie, and maybe there isn't one thing, but if there was one thing that the booth is the most proud of, like in terms of a piece or an exhibit, or is there one thing that if people are like, oh, well, the booth museum has this, you got to go see it. Like, would you be able to pinpoint one thing that you'd say is like a standout?
Because I'm the director of development and I'm a people person, I think that it's the people. That's the one thing, it's the connectivity, and that's what we'll get through on the experiences and the trips that we're engaging in now. But
Yeah.
I mean, all of the artists are people and human too, and the subject matter a lot of times are people, and they're just telling a story and the history. And I just really feel like when you walk in, we have, the friendly staff adds to the experience, the education team, like I was saying, the whole team here at the Booth Museum. It just really adds to the experience when they go, and someone, Seth, he talks about a museum goer is a skimmer, a swimmer, or a diver. And a skimmer will go around and look at one every 3 or 4 paintings, and they'll stop and maybe read the label and then keep skimming. And then the swimmers will actually read a label, and they'll walk through and they'll read the 3rd or 4th label, and they're swimmers. And then the divers, they come in and they spend the whole day and they read every label about every artist, and they really look at the art. They look for, who the artist was, and what's going on with the subject matter and the history part of it. And so I think that it's just the people. It's, art can be displayed all day on the wall with nobody looking at it. That's kind of back to the people loaning us art or donating art to our collections, because art is meant to be shared. And so I think the people is a key component of our museum. Members, sponsors, of course. I'm the director of development, so I've got to give a shout out to the sponsors, the people that name the galleries,
Of course.
and the people that support us.
Of course. So let's transition into this trip. I mean, you kind of told me about this when I had met you the first time, and then of course now that we're here, and that's what the cover story of this month's Cartersville Living is all about. Tell me about what you guys did, the logistics of it, and what the purpose was, and who went, and everything in between. Give me the lowdown on y'all's
Logan,
adventure.
it was so much more than I ever thought it would be. It was such an experience. But we do member trips all the time. Seth Hopkins, our executive director, has been curating member trips for years, and our typical member trip will have 10 to 15 to 20 people, sometimes 25 people on the trip. And so we will go. Usually, Seth kind of plans the trip around another Western art museum. Maybe they're having a big show, a big art sale, or one of their big celebrations. And so, just to name a few, since I've been here, we went to Dallas Fort Worth area, and we toured a lot of museums, Western art museums in the Dallas Fort Worth area, a lot of private collections. And so walking into somebody's home, I'm Southern, so I'm not used to, walking in somebody's home and going to every room, and even art is in the bathroom. And they're like, go check on the bathroom on the first floor. And we're like walking in the bathroom, looking at this great art, And so it's like when members and people that we know all around the country, when they open up their homes, that their expectation is you bring in 20 people in, they're going to give you some refreshments, some coffee, some drinks, maybe some wine, and you're just walking around their house looking at their art. They're great art. And so that was new to me in the museum world and getting to travel the country. And so um we go on those member trips. So Dallas Fort Worth, we went on one in 2022. In 2023, I believe we hit Jackson Hole for a week, toured private collections, went to all the galleries in downtown Jackson Hole. That was a lot of fun. The 2022 trip back to that, Fort Worth, Dallas, we went to the Cowboys Artists of America show, which is every November. So I think it's coming up here on November 8th, their main show. Cowboys Artists of America is a big group of, I'll say 50 or 60 gentlemen that's part of the group. And they when they're part of the Cowboy Artists of America, they get to sign a CA after their signature. And a lot of people know that that means that they're part of the Cowboys Artists of America group. And so they have this big show and auction out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area every year. And Seth has been working with that group, and they actually had their, I think, 50th anniversary with us, and they had the event here at the booth, and all of the guys were here, and artists. They're all artists, and so they toured the museum. But
hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about the company that makes your morning drive happen every week. Are you looking to elevate your business and your brand? Hammerhead Creations is here to help. They offer top-tier marketing services, including social media management, website design, and Google page optimization, ensuring your business reaches the right audience. Whether it's a side hustle or your full-time grind, their expert team, me, is ready to help you grow. Plus, if you're into podcasting like me, Hammerhead Creations offers full support for both in-house shows and external podcast creation. From concept to production, we will help you bring your ideas to life. Visit www.hammerheadcreations.com and discover how we can take your business or your podcast or both to the next level. Hammerhead Creations, swim with the big sharks.
anyways, going up to 2023, we went to Santa Fe for a week. Santa Fe was my first time in New Mexico, and seeing Canyon Road in Santa Fe, and so many galleries, so many artists that have studios there. We were there the week before Indian Market, which is a big deal where everybody comes into town for Indian Market, and all of the natives come down and they have all of their work displayed on, like expo booths, if you will, down on the county square or the town square. And so that's interesting. And then this past year, we went to the Idlejohn Museum up in Indianapolis, Indiana. And so we toured the beginning of September, 11 collectors' homes up there, and they were phenomenal collections because they're right close to a museum, of course, and we enjoyed that, and all of our members. We had about 20 people, 20 members on that, and a lot of members. We have members all over the country, and so when we were in Dallas and Fort Worth, we might bring in, when we say we take them, we're not taking them all out of Cartersville, Georgia. We have members from Indiana, California, Arizona that will fly into Fort Worth or Dallas, and they'll join us on that trip. And we had the same thing. And so our members from Indiana, of course, they were already in their home state. They didn't have to fly in. They just drove right in. And we partnered with the Idlejohn Museum and just to support them. And we went to the show. It's called Quest for the West. It was their 20th anniversary. And so it gives our members an opportunity that travel with us, and mostly it's upper level members, an opportunity to buy art and to meet the artist and hear their stories and just chase their passions. So it's just kind of a forum that the booth provides our members that want to go on that. And so similarly, we came up with in June, Facebook totally targeted me. We know how that is. You're scrolling through the doom scroll at night, and
Yep.
I saw a horse auction. It was called Cowgirl Cadillacs, and I'm like, oh, a horse auction. I don't know. I must have been bored that night. I clicked on it, and I got lost for about 45 minutes into this horse auction called Cowgirl Cadillacs, and it was going to be hosted in Sheridan, Wyoming in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from the time that Facebook's targeting me. I don't know why Facebook targeted me. I might have been talking about horses that day. I may have been, I don't know. But
Very
anyway,
possible you were talking about horses that day.
who knows? So, anyways, I clicked on it and I got lost for about 45 minutes because Cowgirl Cadillacs does a great job in doing promo videos, or all of the people that are coming to the auction to sell their horses. And the horses are going from anywhere from $15,000, $20,000, all the way up to $250,000. So that was on a Thursday night. I got lost in this Facebook, going through Facebook and watching all these promo videos. And the next night I went to a graduation party, and I was sitting there with some friends around this table having some dinner and cake. And I was like, Laura Warner, she is a member of our community in Cartersville here, and she was sitting beside me. And I was like, look at what I got lost in. She's a horse person too. They have a few horses. And so I was like, look at this. And she was like, I want to go. And then my friend Ellen Browning was like, I want to go. And so I was like, really? And so I was like, it's in Sheridan in like 2 weeks, guys. And they were like, no, we want to go. And so I thought, once I got up from the dinner table that night, I would walk away. We would never talk about it again. But nope, Laura called Ellen on the way home and she was like, if Leslie's serious, I really want to go. I'm interested. And I was like, okay. So they called me the next day and I was like, well, let's see. We do have members that live out in Sheridan. And Susan and Gary Miller, they had joined us on a trip. And I didn't even mention this trip. We went back in March to the Briscoe Museum out in San Antonio. And Susan and Gary Miller, they are members here at the booth and they live out in Sheridan, Wyoming. And so I was like, well, we do have some members out there. And then the executive director from the Brenton Museum, which is about 20 minutes outside of Sheridan, she's been here, Kendra, a couple of times in the last year. And so I've got to know her and I'm like, well, we could go to that museum. We could go to hang out with Susan and Gary. We could go to this horse auction. We could see the downtown.
Yeah, the pieces are starting to like fit together.
So anyways, we all go. And actually our founder here was like, you got to go to Mount Rushmore. So I was like, I don't even know where Mount Rushmore is in proximity to Sheridan, Wyoming, but it was a 3.5-hour drive. And so on Father's Day back in June, we went to Mount Rushmore, Devil's Tower, and Crazy Horse. And we were out there 4 or 5 days and attended this horse auction and got to see all of that. Kind of the genesis of the cowgirl movement here at the booth. What we kind of are starting over the last few months is we met a lady named Colleen Toohey, and she owns Wyatt Outdoors, and it's a performance apparel line for women and kind of the Western vibe and, fly fishing, breathable material. And so Colleen was like, just manning her booth at this horse auction expo. She's got her 10 by 10 booth space or 20 by 20 booth space with her clothes displayed. And Ellen and Laura and Corey are looking at the clothes and we're hanging out. And Colleen's just like got this really cool vibe to her. And she had told us that corporately she had worked in the corporate world for Ralph Lauren for years and wanted to go out her own. And she had basically bootstrapped this beginning of her, and she had been a beginning of her apparel line, and she had been living in Montana and working toward that. And she continued to talk to us. She's been featured in Cowboys and Indians magazine, which is a great publication. A lot of our members and people that are interested in the West read that publication. And so she had showed us that. And I'm like, okay, she's the real deal. And so she was like looking at us like, okay, you're cowgirls from Georgia. You got your cowgirl hat on, your boots. And she was like, have y'all ever heard of Paul's Up Resort in Greeno, Montana? And we were like, no, what's that? And so we were just getting information, and she said, oh, they partner with the Cowgirl Hall of Fame, the National Cowgirl Hall of Fame. It's located in Fort Worth, Texas, and they partner every year. It's going on like 14 years, and they have a spring roundup and a fall roundup. And she was like, the fall roundup's coming up. Y'all need to look into it. And that was all it was said. So I got back here to the booth, and Seth and my boss, we were talking, and we were like, I said, I want to get some upper level members this month, and I want to have a trip to try to entice people to, join the booth, have so much fun. Like we just had fun on the trip. And so he was like, go for it. I was like, well, can I plan a trip? And he was like, yeah. And I said, can I call him right now? So he didn't know I had that up in my sleeve. I don't think that I already had something on point, but so it takes him a lot of time to curate these trips, to find the members' homes or the collectors' homes to go to, and to work with the museum staff of whatever area we're going to. But here I'm just going out, and we end up calling the resort right then, and they're like, yeah, we have space available. And I was like, okay, I might get 10 members to come and enjoy Cowgirl Roundup in the fall. And so you get to fly fish for 4 hours, you get to trail ride for an hour. It's a 5-star like luxury resort. You stay in cabins, either 2 people, 3 people, or 4-person cabins. And so I was like, okay, that sounds great. And let me see if I can get 10 people to go with me. And the more I advertised and the more we talked it up and the people that we got on board to come, we ended up with 19 that went on the trip.
Wow.
So,
and then I assume, did all of those people pay their own way to go?
yeah.
Okay. So the booth didn't pay for any of that.
in order to travel with the booth, we want you at that upper level membership level. So, in order to be eligible to travel with Seth or with me to go on these trips, has always been you got to be an upper level member. So,
Sure.
that helps support the museum, of course, and it gives you a few perks. Our upper level membership starts at $1,500 a year, and it includes actually one of those GMI membership passes that gets you into all of the museums. So, if you're here locally in Cartersville, you can go to Savoy, Telus, the Marte History Museum, and the booth with that membership. It's also tax deductible, some of it. You really get down into a portion of it's tax deductible. You're receiving some benefits there with you get a free print in the gift shop with that membership. You get some tickets that you can give out to invite others to come share in your passion of Western art. So anyways, from the trip to Sheridan, Wyoming, and just 4 girls going out on a girls trip / work trip for me. And we went and, toured the Brenton Museum, met up with Kendra, went into Susan and Gary Miller's home, which they live in a historic home about a mile off the square in Sheridan. So it's just those rich relationships the connections that we made while we were out there. We were just kind of on fire when we came back to like, what else can we do? What other trips can we do? What trips can we plan? So we planned this Cowgirl Roundup was already a thing. It was out in Greeno, Montana at this Paws Up Resort. What woman would not want to go out and make all their husbands jealous because you get to fly fish and trail ride in Montana. So
Yeah,
you
it's
get to see
amazing.
the beautiful scenery. You get to see have great meals. The food was, oh my gosh, so good. And you get to experience, because Paws Up Resort partners with the Cowgirl Hall of Fame, the Cowgirl Hall of Fame staff members are there. So we got to know all of them. And they also bring in a couple of the cowgirls from the honorees from the Cowgirl Hall of Fame so they can kind of immerse themselves in with the 60 cowgirls. So out of 60 cowgirls, the Booth Museum had 19 there. And so we were a force to be reckoned with. And when we got out there, we all had to stand up at the first night's dinner, introduce ourselves, and tell them what superpower we had. And so when we got up, we were like, hey, so and so from Cartersville, Georgia, I'm with the Booth Museum. And so after 19 of those in a room full of 60, everybody was like, who's the Booth Museum around here? So it was fun.
That is really cool. And so, like, so you guys were out there for a little while and you fly fish and you hiked and you rode horseback, yeah, and a few different things. What did you guys Was there anything you took away from that trip, like, collectively as a group, individually? Like, did you guys I'm sure you formed quite a bond with all the 18 other ladies that you were with. Tell me a little bit about that stuff.
So it was already going to be the most awesome trip ever. Like it looked like on paper. I had never been. This was my first time in Montana. I had never been to that resort, but I thought this is going to be great. And I had done my research and talked to a few people that had been, and we had heard Paws Up Resort is top notch. So we ended up, the booth wanted to put kind of our booth spin on it because it's like they already have everything they're offering with the fly fishing and all of that. So we took Ann Say, our photographer, out there. So Ann Say lives here in Cartersville, Georgia, has her own photography business called Ann Say Photography, and she's actually the photographer for Cartersville Living magazine. She photographs.
Sure is. So it just worked out.
Yeah, so she photographs the front cover of Cartersville Living magazine, and she does a lot of. So we brought Insay in for the inner cowgirl photo sessions. All 19 of us that went on the trip from the booth received a 30-minute photo session with Ann Say. Ann worked so hard while we were out there.
Each of you individually got 30 minutes.
We each got like anywhere between 20 to 24 digital prints when we got home. We could wear whatever we wanted to. So that was a lot of fun. And that really helped, I think, in the bonding process while we were out there as well. So that was something special and unique that we did while we were there. And if you've seen any of our social media, we've all shared our photographs on social media, and we're just like, what are they doing? Because all the cowgirls are coming. They're all putting their cowgirl pictures up, excuse me. And so, but yeah, the bonds, I just wanted to read you some of these if I can. So this morning, I was chatting with the group and was like, okay, what would you talk about if you were going to be on this podcast? And, people were talking about we formed friendships over the campfire, fly fishing, and the amazing meals. And then the connection between all of the ladies. We had ages 32 to 80 on this trip. And so connection was the word that one of our members, Kelly Johnson, she said, connection, that's a word I keep telling people who ask me about the trip, and that we are still connecting weeks later in this text chain, sharing our day-to-day stuff and jokes and memes and stuff. Love y'all. Have a great day and have fun with the podcast. So all day long, every day, this group chat, and we've named it the Cowgirl Collective, and I'll get to why we call it that in a second. But Laura Warner, she said, a beautiful depiction of the vast way God moves people and relationships through common likes and beautiful destinations. So I love that. Corey McDaniel said, when strong women come together, they weave enduring friendships, amplify their voices, build love and trust, and shape the spirit of fearless cowgirls. So one cool experience that we had while we were out there, Elizabeth Woolsey, she is the only cowgirl out of the 19 of us that does not live in Cartersville. Elizabeth's got a fascinating story where she is from California, grew up there. She went to Auburn University to vet school, and she was going to move to Australia for 2 years after vet school and practice, and she was a horse vet. And so she was going to practice over there for a couple of years and then return to the States. Well, she ended up staying over 25 years over there. Had her daughter over there. She's going back in another month and to attend her daughter's wedding. And her daughter still lives over there. And so Elizabeth, horse vet, and the whole reason when she left Australia years ago, she came back to North Georgia and moved to LJ so she could go back and fly fish out in her backyard every day. And so she was like the perfect person to go on this trip. So I had secured probably 15 or 16 of my Cartersville Cowgirls to go on this trip, and I kind of had cut it off. And Elizabeth walks up to me at one of the events at the booth, one of the member openings, and she was like, hey, I want to go on that Cowgirl trip. And I was like, really? I'm like, well, you are the perfect person. She's been a horse vet and she loves to fly fish. So Elizabeth signed on. And so this is what Elizabeth had to say about it. She said, my plan was to come see what was going on, do a little bit of fishing, a little bit of riding, and get my photo shoot done.
Hey guys, let's talk about another partner of the podcast, Branded and Devoted Designs. Are you looking to level up your company's merch game? Your brand deserves better than boring swag. If you contact Branded and Devoted Designs, you can level up with custom hats, shirts, tumblers, mugs, and more that your customers and clients will brag about. Go to www.brandedanddevoted.designs.com to make your brand stick out. Mention that Logan from Your Morning Drive sent you, and they will give you 10% off of your order. That's brandedanddevoted.designs.com. Tell them Logan sent you from Your Morning Drive for 10% off your order.
I couldn't imagine that I had anything in common with the other women. I was so wrong. Every woman there had a story and compelled me to interact, get to know these women, their stories, and become honest to goodness friends. What I didn't tell them was their characters will eventually find their way in a book. Ha ha. And this is why I live in Georgia. So Elizabeth has authored probably over 10 books.
Oh,
And you actually can buy Elizabeth's books in our gift shop here, the
oh, look at
Chemistry
that.
Alexander McNair store. So Elizabeth's a character herself, and she was cool on the trip. And Jessie Weaver, she went on the trip with us. She said, when we went on the ATVs and Dawn Perkins decided she couldn't breathe with the buff that they gave us to cover for all the dust, she said, with the buff on, so she just sucked up half of Montana dust up her nose holes. At the moment, she officially became Pigpen. So Jessie now has a nickname for Dawn Perkins, Jessie, of course, is Weaver Heating and Air, and Dawn Perkins, he coordinates the Backpack Buddies programs or helps with all the volunteers with that. And so if you see Dawn out in the wild in Cartersville, you can call her Pigpen because that's what Jessie has now named her.
Yeah, check in with her. Make sure her nose and throat are doing okay from all that dust.
So what I didn't know when I first started this whole cowgirl movement is how fast everybody would bond and come together. And like I said, we had ages 32 to 80 on this trip. We all had each other's backs. We were also supportive. And when we got back, I think this group text we have one on Facebook and one also on just text messages. And every day that thing blows up 40 or 50 times a day with people sharing their lives and people commenting and laughing with each other and smiling with each other or grieving with each other, whatever emotion that day is happening. We're there to support each other, and some people knew each other before the trip. Some of them were already good friends, but the majority didn't know each other or didn't know each other as good as they do now. So it's just been wild seeing it.
That's really fun. I love that you guys got to share that with each other. And if nothing else, you guys will have that for the rest of your lives, which is just really special. And I know, I mean, I can relate, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. You know, you go on a trip with people that you're not so sure about, not because they give you a bad vibe or anything, but just because you don't know them, and you don't know what you don't know, and that's not your fault. But then you come back and you're just like, I don't know what the rest of my life holds, but I know that I am gonna have this chat with these ladies, hopefully forever, and hopefully it carries on, and that's just such a powerful thing, and it probably just made the trip all the better because all of you could have gone to that resort alone at any point in your life, but the fact that you guys all united and took a 20 girls trip out to do this and be a part of something so cool, and now you're gonna be on the cover of Cartersville Living, and you're doing the podcast with me, so it's just what a cool
We're going
experience.
worldwide.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
there.
we should.
We're going worldwide. No, it's just been so great to see. I mean, every time I go to a booth event, and now all of these ladies are members of the booth because they had to be eligible to go on the trip. We'll show up at, we have these things called Circle Sundays where we'll go to one of the collectors or members' homes, and we'll see their art collection or see something prominent on their property. We went to Eric Strauss's studio up in Ellijay, and of course, we're in Ellijay, and it just happened that Elizabeth lives right over the mountain from Eric and Ellijay. So there was 4 of us that rode up together to go on that trip, and we ended up going, and Elizabeth fixed us lunch and, just let us see her property, and then we hopped in the car and jumped over the mountain, and there we were at Eric Strauss's. He's a metal sculpture artist, and we have some of his art in our permanent collection here, and so we were able to share that opportunity, and then after that, we had a linger longer event at Patty Berry's mountain house in Mineral Bluff, and she was on the cowgirl trip with us. And so I think we took a picture or made a photo up there. It was like 9 or 10 of us that were there, and we were all there to support Patty and see Eric's studio and to support Elizabeth. And so it's very interesting, just the friendships that have been made and the bonds. And so we didn't want it to stop there. We want to keep the momentum going. And so that's what we have. We're actually going back. We're going to Fort Worth November 17th and 18th because we made so many friends with the Cowgirl Hall of Fame staff members. And they were telling us about this great event where they do the induction luncheon to all the new Cowgirl Hall of Famers. And so the induction luncheon is coming up November 18th in Fort Worth. And November 17th is the VIP reception, and that's all the Cowgirl Hall of Famers that are there in for the event. So at that event, there'll be 200 ladies, and somehow I got us tickets into that event.
Wow.
There's like, I think 7 of us going to the reception, and on the 17th, and then we have a table of 10 for the Booth Museum, and 7 of us are coming from Cartersville to go to that event to support the Cowgirl Hall of Fame. We met this fascinating lady, the lady that she was inducted, I think, in 2022 to the Cowgirl Hall of Fame. Her name is Heidi Red, and she lives in Utah.
Sounds like a cowgirl.
Yeah, and she has a phenomenal story, and she was part of that event, the Cowgirl Roundup, in September, and she has a science research center on her ranch in Utah now, but I think she said she's 83 years old. She was inducted a few years ago into the Cowgirl Hall of Fame, so she was going back to be part of that induction luncheon, and as an honoree, they have all the honorees back that want to join them. And so there's going to be 1,300 people at the event at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth on November 18th. And so Heidi looked at all of the Cartersville girls, the Cartersville Cowgirls, while we were out there, and she was like, "Please tell me y'all are going." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, we're going." So she was like, "Please tell me y'all are gonna go dance." And I was like, "Yes, we will." And she walked up to Laura Warner because Laura, she can cut a rug. She likes to clog, one of our cowgirls. And so she was like, "Please tell me she's going." And Laura
Yeah.
was like, "Yes, ma'am, I will be there." And so she wants to go out and dance. Miss Heidi does when we're out there. So we will. So after one of the events at Paul's Up, after dinner, we all went back to what they call the tank. and we played music and danced. And out of the 60 cowgirls, there was probably 40 in the room, and we just had such a fun time with Heidi Red. Oh my gosh, y'all need to look up our story. She's a big conservationist, a ranch owner out in Utah. She's just amazing. So that's kind of why we're going to support the Cowgirl Hall of Fame, because we had such a good time. But Heidi was like, "Y'all will be there, won't you?" And we were like, "Yes, ma'am, we will be there." So we're going to do that. And then we're going to go back to Paws Up Resort to the spring roundup. So that's April 16th through the 20th, I believe. And it's called the Cowgirl Roundup. It's the spring roundup. And instead of fly fishing this time, you do a cattle drive. And so you're out on a horse for 4 hours driving cattle, and we'll get to experience that. And then they also will do another trail ride. So that's in April. But before that, I was thinking, okay, we need a cowgirl event here at the booth. And so we've come up with what we call the Cowgirl Collective, named after what we named the June trip and the September trip, the booth Cartersville Cowgirls. We're going to have the Cowgirl Collective, and we are going to have that on January 23rd and 24th. So it's basically programming all day on Friday here at the booth. We're going to hop on a motor coach around 4:30 at the booth and drive up to Barnsley Gardens or Barnsley Resort. And we are going to stay overnight there, have dinner. We're going to have what we call Party Like a Cowgirl event that night, with some line dancing. So we're going to have food, music, drinks, and a DJ and some line dancing instruction. And then we're going to go to sleep, eat breakfast at Barnsley, and then we're going to head back down here for some more programming. But this event has come together. Oh my gosh. We're only going to take 100 cowgirls, and
Only?
yep. And we are going to have cowgirl headshots, and Say is going to be back in action.
Wow.
We're going to have a mixologist here to teach on how to make Southern signature drinks for entertaining.
Heck yeah.
We have Brandy Brown coming. She's with now Adobe Interior. So she's going to do kind of an interior design of how to incorporate maybe something Western in your home with like Western blankets, throw pillows, or whatnot, along with your contemporary or more traditional things. If you're not really ready to venture out and go full-fledged Western in your home, maybe you just want a little bit here and there. And she'll teach you how to do that. And we're bringing in an artist panel. We have Carrie Penley, Donna Housickles, and Amy Watts. Amy is a true cowgirl, lives it every day. If you follow her on Facebook, Amy Watts, the artist, she is out there doing the cowgirl thing every single day. She lives in Statham, Georgia. Donna Housickles is from Texas, and she paints a lot of subject matter that revolves around cowgirls and the cowgirl spirit and cowgirl culture. So happy to have her over here. And then Carrie Penley is an artist from Carrollton, Georgia, but she shows her work out in galleries in Jackson Hole, and I'm sure other places. That's just the ones that I know of. And we have Carrie Penley's work, Donna Housickles' work, and Amy Watt's work in our permanent collection here at the booth. So we're excited to have all three of them on the panel. We have another artist that's been a cowgirl all of her life. She grew up in the rodeo world. She lives out in Arizona, and she's going to come in, Deborah Fellows. She was our Artist of Excellence this year. She won the only award we give out here at the booth each year, and she won it this year in 2025 at our March Gala. She's a sculptor. And so we have several of her sculptures in our permanent collection. One is one of the monumental sculptures outside in our sculpture court, and one is in the atrium in our sculpture. We are excited to have them. We have a lady named Courtney Dehoff coming. She goes all around the country doing corporate events. She's known as the Fancy Lady Cowgirl. And so she's going to be like the hype girl that kind of opens up the event. It's going to be, how to be legendary, meeting any woman in any season of life, kind of like your women's empowerment. Like wherever you are in life, whether you're 32 or you're 80, you're going to get something out of this 1 hour of Courtney, Fancy Lady Cowgirl, hyping you up, making sure that you know what steps you're going to take when you leave here. You're going to like walk out the door thinking you can do anything in life. And I think that's what a lot of ladies and women around think that they can do, but sometimes they forget. So they got to be reminded that their inner cowgirl can come out and they have that spirit. So we're going to kick the day off. We're also going to have jewelry, Western wear trunk show. And so Colleen Toohey, the owner of Wyatt Outdoors, she's coming all the way from Montana, and she's going to have a booth set up here. She's the reason we started all of this, just meeting her at the Cowgirl Cadillacs. And She's gonna have a booth. Sylvia from Good Tidings Jewelry is gonna be here. She lives here locally, but sells in 2 or 3 stores out in New York, and so she has a lot of turquoise and different types of jewelry that she'll be offering. We have Mike Booth, one of our members from Jim TV Network. He'll be here, and we also will have Dee Yates. She's a photographer out of California. She has made like a coffee table book, Cowgirl Culture, Cowgirls of California, and she's working on one for Cowgirls of Arizona. She might even make a Cowgirls of Georgia book at some point, but she's going to be here. She's really studied the cowgirl culture and is fascinated with it, and she's going to talk to us about what she's learned interviewing these ladies. That's part of her book, and so we're excited about that. Um, we have Brandy Brown, the interior designer. She and her husband used to own Cowboys and Indians magazine, I think, up until last year. And
Wow.
yeah, that's a big deal. So she's coming in
Heck
town.
yeah.
We have a lot of cool programming. And then
Yeah.
of course you partner that with Barnsley Resort and first class accommodations and food. And I think it's going to be a fun time. So if anybody's interested in that, they can contact me. You can find me on the booth website. My email address is lesliem@boothmuseum.org. And we'll, of course, be in Cartersville Living magazine. I think my contact information will be there. But we're excited. We're filling up. So I think we're halfway there of our 100 Cowgirls, and we've not even started advertising yet. So,
Hmm. Well, I love that so much. Very good things. Very good things. I'll make sure that your not only the booth museum, but like your contact is in the description of the episode so that if people need it, they can go search for it. Um, Leslie, thank you for doing this with me.
yeah, thank you, Logan, for, bringing awareness for the booth and the Cowgirl Collective. And thanks to Caitlin with Cartersville Living magazine for helping us out. And, you know, we're so blessed and fortunate to be on the front cover of that magazine coming out in November. We have an article coming out there as well and an ad for this Cowgirl Collective. So it's something that I'm so proud of. And I know the 19 cowgirls that are part of the Cowgirl Collective right now that they're so proud of. So hopefully we can just continue this momentum and build on it and again, go worldwide.
Yeah, I love it so much. Thank you so much. And you should be proud, by the way. All of you ladies should be proud of what you've just begun. The potential is way out there, but you guys have a very, very strong foundation right now. And I mean, we could go crazy with it. And the fact that you 19, you have a core great group at the center of it. And even if it explodes and this is a movement that is across multiple states and has multiple events a year, and at least like you all can remember that it started in 2025 when you went on that trip together,
Yep.
which is just really, really cool. So of course, like I just mentioned to Leslie, I'll make sure that the contact info for her is in the description of the episode so that if you guys are interested in learning more or maybe even getting involved, you can do that. Leslie, how can people support the Booth Museum? Tell a little bit about that.
So many different ways to support the museum. So showing up at our event this past weekend, we just had West Fest, and it's been going on for I think over 22 years. It used to be called the Cowboy Festival and Symposium. We rebranded a couple of years ago to West Fest.
Fest.
That sounds good. And we opened it up to more vendors that are kind of outside the Western genre, and we added food trucks and more kids area. And it's I think we had over 5,000 people here across Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday and Friday we had Passport to the West, which is school age children on field trips that come in. We fly in entertainers and bring in entertainers from all across the country, Native American dancers depicting that. We have Shootout at the OK Corral, a depiction of that. And we have a show called Birds of Prey. So they come in. And so it's really back to our mission and education. That's what this past weekend was all about. And so from showing up at those events to coming to member openings to support artists, and you're not only supporting artists, you're coming in lifelong learning. You know, everybody wants to continue to learn throughout their life, and you make friends and meet interesting people, and you get to meet the artist and hear interesting stories. So when you're out at brunch with your friends, you'll be like, look at what I learned at the booth last week. And, my BFF was there, and you have a new artist friend that lives in Arizona. And so even if you're, from 100-mile radius, we have members that come in from Chattanooga to Atlanta, from Alabama to come to come to some of our member openings. So you're going to meet a lot of people. So we have opportunities for membership. We have opportunities just to come in and support us. When family members come into town, a lot of people will bring them over to the museum from out of town to show off their museum city. So our tourism board has termed or coined the
Museum City, yeah.
Museum City because of all of our museums.
Shouts to Steven.
Yeah,
If he's
Stephen Schumacher.
if he's hearing this, yeah, love that guy.
Oh my gosh, they do so much.
They're great folks.
So we're just excited to be a part of that museum, Cartersville Museum City. So any way you can support us by, even going to our sister museum, Savoy, Tell Us, Bartow History Museum and their events, sharing them on Facebook, giving us a like on Facebook, social media. That's always going to be helpful. Maybe you can't get to all of the events. We know, we understand, but you can help share the word that we're doing what we say we're going to do in our mission. We're bringing, education, lifelong learners here to Cartersville, to downtown.
I love it. I love it so much. Guys, thank you for tuning in today. Thank you to everybody who helped make this episode happen. Thank you to the Booth Museum for having us here. What a cool experience. What a cool opportunity. Very inspiring to be in a room like this, to do this kind of conversation with you, Leslie. It was a lot of fun. And I learned more about you. So, that's a win for me and you.
Well, Logan, thank you so much for being here. It was awesome. Thank you for coming and being in front of the Maynard-Dixon and getting to share a little piece of the Booth story and what's to come.
Yeah, this is super cool, super inspiring. So guys, again, get involved if it makes sense for you. The links are in the description to the Booth website and Leslie's contact info. Thank you to Cartersville Living for putting this together, and we will see everybody next time. Take care.